Good morning and welcome to our adult story time this morning from Alexander Hamilton Memorial Free Library. This month we're taking our stories from the book Franklin County Ghosts. This was a book that was published in 2009, so some of the information that says is current may be from 2009, but the stories are still the same. So today's story out of this book is The Beauty Parlor. It has been said that hairdressers and beauticians are the keepers of the world's greatest secrets. Most women go to the same shop and do the same hairdresser for years, particularly when the establishment is a small, personal neighborhood salon. While their hair is being washed and dyed and highlighted, curled, or cut, women relaxing in the pampered atmosphere tend to speak openly of their lives and their passions to the safe, familiar friend tending their tresses. This emotional energy saturates the atmosphere, humming just below the sounds of voices, hairdryers, and running water. One such place sits on the side of a hill in the basement of an aged building in a small town in Franklin County. It is a small, quaint shop consisting of one large room divided into areas for washing, cutting, and waiting. On the wall next to the counter is a large bulletin board, and pinned in rows in one corner of the bulletin board are photographs of patrons who have died. The owners, Betty and Martha, have been in business for more than 40 years and have been at the current location for more than 2 decades. In parallel lives, they have shared their clients' marriages, births, and deaths, bound by stories told through countless haircuts and hundreds of hours of personal care. However, over the past several years, strange episodes have invaded their routines. Both no longer feel comfortable in the shop at night when the lights are turned off just before closing. They have sensed a lingering presence in the dark, staying behind, refusing to leave. They have witnessed and experienced unexplained events, but only Betty will speak of the things that she has seen. Ghostly occurrences. The mist. One day, one of Betty's clients began to cry as she sat under the hairdryer. It happened just after the delivery man came and went. Someone who had been servicing the shop for years, and someone whom the client had seen many times before. Betty brought her some tissues and asked her what was wrong. The tearful woman replied that she had recognized her husband in the delivery man, and her longing for her husband, who had died years before, had saddened her to the point of tears. Betty escorted her client from the dryer and sat her in the chair where Betty could style her hair. The woman sat facing the mirror and Betty stood behind her. As Betty began removing the curlers from the customer's hair, both were startled by something emanating from the woman's lap. It was like a white, heavy fog, Betty recalled. The cloud suddenly appeared in front of her client as if it had risen up out of her. It happened very quickly, but it came out of this woman's lap, circled and floated up above her head. Betty felt nothing as she watched the vapor pass through her hands. As the mist rose above their heads, it disintegrated, disappearing as mysteriously as it had appeared. Betty had never before seen or experienced anything like that. She quickly glanced about the shop to see if anyone else had noticed the mist. While other people were there, including Martha, the co-owner of the shop, none of them had noticed anything unusual. Betty's startled customer looked up at her, leaned back, and asked, "What was that?" "I said I didn't know," Betty recounted. Neither woman knew what to make of the mist. Later, they would conclude it had been caused by the woman's profound sadness. "This woman had been my customer for 25 years, Betty went on. She told me that she had seen things happen to her in her house." Betty shrugged. "So I think whatever it is, it's the customer. She brought it in here." But Betty isn't sure. Mirrors, signs, and smudges. It was Friday evening and Betty was in the shop with a lone customer when the mirror on the wall beside them appeared to levitate outward from the wall and just hang suspended in the air, as if an unseen hand held the mirror straight out, away from the wall. Moments later, the mirror set itself back securely on its hook. Betty had seen the mirror swing on occasion, but had dismissed it as being the result of vibrations from movement in the shop. This, however, was different. The mirror had clearly projected itself outward from the wall. On another evening, again while Betty was the only stylist in the shop with a customer, both watched as a sign on the wall near the counter lifted itself up and jumped off the wall. The sign basically came off the wall and threw itself on the floor. The placard had been on the wall next to the bulletin board bearing the photographs of the deceased customers. A telephone sat on the counter, and looking to see where the sign had fallen, both saw that the telephone's cord was swinging. "What in the world would make it do that?" Betty exclaimed, to which the customer matter-of-factly replied, "I believe you have a ghost." Betty laughed this off and proceeded to tend to her client's hair. After a while, her client said, "Betty, I hate to tell you, but it's here." "What do you mean?" Betty asked, and her client replied with a chill in her voice, "It's right here. It's large. I feel it. It's standing here right between the stations." Betty looked up and saw something transparent but refractive occupying the space in front of them. Looking through it, everything on the other side appeared distorted. Betty was not able to read the labels on the bottles of hair products she kept at her station, and reflections in the mirror were smudged. "It was like looking with bad eyesight," Betty exclaimed. "It was clear, but blurry." The distorted mass remained for a few moments more and then dissipated. Epilogue. Betty and Martha still run their beauty parlor up on the hill, providing friendly, professional service to their many loyal customers. The days and evenings essentially pass in comfortable, uneventful routine, with people coming and going, talking and laughing, enjoying the company and attention. A new client appears now and then to take the place of one whose picture appears on the bulletin board, the salon's memorial to clients who have passed on. Sometimes the mirror swings on its hook, and sometimes a mysterious gossamer curtain comes between Betty and her workstation, distorting her view but disappearing as quickly as it descends. She has gotten used to it, but no one ever stays there alone at night. Author's note: the location of this shop and identities of the participants aren't given to protect their privacy. And that's today's story, The Beauty Parlor. We're glad you joined us. Join us again next week as we pick another story out of our book, Franklin County Ghost. So until then, stay healthy, be safe, and have a wonderful week.